Elden Ring has a multitude of different weapons that you can use to complete your playthroughs, whether that be using daggers, bows, hammers, longswords, you name it, it's there. But out of all of those weapons, which one is the best to be using? Well, that's what we're going to be answering today, and hopefully this weapon will allow you to become a god slayer and make Elden Ring the most easiest game you've ever played. And of course, throughout the video, if you've got opinions on what you think is the best weapon that you should be using in Elden Ring, hit me out in the comments down below. I may even make a video on it in the future, you never know, because I'm willing to try it out myself and see if you can prove me wrong. But anyway, back on topic, and the reason why you've clicked on this video, what is this weapon that I should be using? Well, it's none other than Morgoth's Cursed Sword. Now, I know if you're around the community, there is a lot of good things said about this particular weapon, and it is already known as to how good this weapon can be. After actually killing Morgoth and not his poxy little projections of himself, you eventually obtain his remembrance after defeating him at the base of the Erd Tree in the Leyndell capital. And with said remembrance, you can go to the round table and use it to get his cursed sword. And by far, this is the best weapon that you can obtain from all of the remembrances that you can get throughout the game, and it's somewhat mid-game as well. Like, it's definitely useful for a large majority of your playthrough, especially taking on the later game bosses, because not only does it deal incredible amount of damage, it also has the bleed effect built into the sword, along with fire damage when using its skill power. As with every other special item in the game, it uses somber smithing stones to level up, so again, after obtaining it, you should really be able to upgrade it to at least 4 or 5, even if you've only gone into a couple of mines throughout your playthrough leading up to this boss fight. It also scales mainly with dexterity, but also scales slightly with strength and arcane. The only downside I would say that it would be, if you were to obviously get it straight away from defeating Morgoth, is it needs 35 dexterity along with 17 arcane and 14 strength to wield it. But in advance, if you know that you need that, you are more than capable of having a character at level 50 or onwards with those stats. On screen, you're going to be seeing gameplay of me using it in New Game Plus 6, so it's fair to say I've used a large majority of weapons that Elden Ring has to offer, and more so recently, this is becoming my favourite. Not only does it deal an incredible amount of damage, but obviously it has the bleed effect for that extra boost, and the skill power is absolutely brilliant in the fact that it runs up to enemies, staggers them first of all with the running animation, and the attacks itself also seem to break enemy stances fairly quickly. I mean, I'm going to put the fight with Malenia here where I literally hold her in a corner with this weapon and she cannot move. Being able to render possibly the most powerful boss in the game useless just purely from one move of this weapon is pretty incredible. As I said, you can pretty much be using this weapon as soon as you get the remembrance, as long as obviously you've put the points into dexterity. I know it requires like a level sort of 40-50 character and purely focusing on dex until you get to the boss, but let's just say you haven't. If you wanted to, you can also start Rani's quest and obtain some larval tears in Nokron, obviously below the surface of the lands between. So if you need to, you can also use them to basically redistribute your stats and make it viable to use this weapon from that point onwards. And just on stats as well, I'm going to throw up on screen some graphics of the different stats that I would suggest using at the different level points for a character that's level 75, level 100 and a level 150. These are purely based as if you were to have started with a level 1 character and you've got 10 base stats across all of the stats. If so, for a level 75 character, I would have 15 extra points into Vigor, so you've got 25 Vigor, plus 5 in Mind, so 15 Mind, plus 10 Endurance to allow you to use this along with a somewhat decent armor set, because you are going to have Endurance up a little bit to help with your carry weight. Obviously strength, I would put plus 10 as well to get it to 20. Dexterity is the main one with 25 to allow you to have 35 dex to use this particular weapon. And then I would also increase Arcane by 10, leaving Intelligence and Faith as they are because they're not necessary for this build whatsoever. And then moving on with level 100, I would put an additional 5 into Vigor, Mind and endurance, and then the remaining 10 I would put into dexterity, because dexterity is the main attribute that will scale this weapon. So dexterity is basically your main friend throughout your playthrough and when you're leveling your character. And then also for the 150 builds, I would put another 10 in dexterity, another 5 in both mind and endurance, and then plus 10 in all of the attributes that scale the weapon, so plus 10 in strength, arcane, and also dexterity. So realistically, you end up with about 30 arcane, 55 dex, 30 strength, 30 endurance, 25 mind, and 40 vigor. Again, you can chop and change these. If you're using, say, incantations like Golden Vow, I'm sure you can swap out some mind and endurance to boost up faith if you want to do that, and just find ways to tweak them to basically play to your playing style. But realistically, those are the sort of bases that you need in order to make this weapon incredibly powerful. My new Game Plus 6 build is pretty much all over the place from the different videos that I make, and so the stats are literally everywhere. I think my main stat in this playthrough is faith. Rest of the other stats are like 50 and below. I think arcane was actually at like 30, 35. So also take that into account, that the build that I'm using whilst recording this gameplay is not tailored to this build at all, and it's still insane. As for the talismans as well for you to use, I would highly recommend using the Prothesis Wearer Heirloom, the one that boosts your dexterity. That's also something that you can pick up fairly early game. Any form of sort of like Dragon Crest shield to help with physical damage, because using this weapon you do need to be up close and personal, and obviously if you're not the best of dodging, like moi, that's going to help you survive and just keep going against most of the bosses. Godfrey's icon can also be obtained in the Altus Plateau, so again, after getting this weapon, maybe go and get the Godfrey icon. It's in the Evergoal to the south of Altus Plateau. I'll show it on screen here for you. And then I also use Alexander's Shard as well, but you don't get that until later on in the game when you go to Farum Azula. So if you want to use something like the Winged Sword Insignia, or even something like the Lord of Blood's Exaltation, if you've got that to help with blood loss in the vicinity and boost your damage when there is blood loss in the vicinity. But ideally, all of those talismans will buff either the special attack or the main attack of your weapon, just giving that extra damage as well for each hit and making it even more of a powerhouse. And with this weapon as well, as I say, it breaks the stance of enemies fairly quickly, much like most of the colossal weapons or heavy weapons such as like hammers and great swords. So it also leaves a lot of enemies open for critical attacks, which is always nice. And just the weapon art itself and also the way it looks is just incredible. And this is one of the only weapons, apart from maybe Scorsage's greatsword as well, where you actually feel like it's worth killing the boss to obtain their weapon. And it's definitely one of the best weapons that I have used in Elden Ring so far. Obviously many updates have happened since I've made previous videos in the past, but this weapon seems to have always upheld itself, and it is still incredible even with the latest patch. But other than that, that's pretty much it. This weapon can deal extreme amounts of damage, especially if you're using it with like another summon like the Mimic Tier, if you want to double up on the insane damage that you can do with your character, or things like the Black Knife Tishi. It just makes for a deadly combo, and honestly, if you're struggling against any bosses, use this weapon, and it's just, yeah, the weapon is just insane. You need to go use it, try it for yourselves. Let me know how you get on using it, because honestly, it's going to change your life. It really is. Or at least in Elden Ring. Maybe not your life in real life, but in Elden Ring, it's going to make things a hell of a lot easier. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. I'm really sorry that I haven't made content in a little while. Life's just got a bit hectic, and there's things that you need to do and you need to get on with before you can make YouTube videos, unfortunately. I wish I could make them all day, every day, but I can't. I've got other responsibilities that I need to adhere to, and this, at the end of the day, is just a hobby, and I'm here to make content for you guys. Bring a smile on your face, whilst also helping out and giving some tips and tricks for your favourite game, and just hopefully brightening your day. But I've also got a series coming out, whether or not it's something that you guys are going to like, I don't know. I'm going to try something, see if you do enjoy it. It's going to be based around the worst weapons, so as much as we're talking about the best weapon today, it's actually going to be based around the worst weapons in Elden Ring and me forcing myself to complete the game. So you can imagine how that's going to go. So if you want to stick around and see if I do actually manage to do that, hit that subscribe button and hit the bell button as well. That way you'll be notified when that video does come out, or when those videos do come out, I should say. But otherwise, if you've enjoyed, do hit the like button as well. Again, as I said before, let me know in the comments down below if there's a weapon even better than this one. I dare you, I double dare you to tell me that there is a better weapon than Morgoth's Curse Sword. Because there's not, you'd be lying. But if you're not lying, let me know what the weapon is down below. It'll be really interesting to know if there's something miles better than this, because then it really is insane if that's the case. But other than that, I hope you guys and girls have an amazing rest of your days, and I will catch you in the next video of whatever it is that I make. Bye bye.